What about it, YouTube? Okay, the next video in the series of the Flat Earth Heresy, and for a quick little review, we've talked about the small hats who came up with the deception, who periodically reboot it and re-release it, all in an attempt to polarize certain people away from finding God, and at the same time being able to mock Christians and Christian theology and the one true God, living God in the process. So, yeah, we exposed who's behind it, and we talked about how NASA's moon flights were a joke, and how Flat Earth was used to poison the well of the truth coming out, and to, again, cause people to polarize and be able to ridicule the facts that were starting to come out again, because we're in a new age of information sharing, and as especially YouTube and video sharing emerged and certain ideas started gaining ground, there had to be a reaction to it. So although the internet's been around for 20 plus years, video sharing has only been around for a little over 10, and YouTube type stuff, and so it wasn't until like the late 2000s that certain information like NASA being bullshit artists and other things started to emerge and started to gain ground, where Flat Earth had to be rebooted in order to discredit and distract and eliminate the threats of the truth that was emerging. So, what's the next thing that was used with Flat Earth to be poisoned, to have a turd thrown in the truth punch bowl? It was geocentrism. Okay, and we're going to look at a guy named Malcolm Bowden. Alright, let's flip you over here. Alright, Malcolm Bowden, right here, as you can see, 8 years ago, so we're talking about 2010, was doing wonderful work collating and presenting the 100+ years of evidence that the earth sits still. Okay? And he explains how science had to, how all of these experiments, they were originated with the idea that we're proving that the earth moves. So they were expecting certain results from their experiments, and the results they got back were not what they expected. One of the experiments, got to be in here somewhere, Aries failure, is called Aries failure because Aries was using telescopes and putting water into telescopes to track sunlight, and found out that we don't go around the sun, because if we went around the sun, he would have had different readings with his telescopes. Michelson-Morley has to do with the Earth's spin and how that doesn't happen. But if you go back and review any of these videos that he's done on geocentrism, I wouldn't say I agree with everything that Malcolm Bowden says in all of his videos, but as far as his geocentrism stuff, it's spot on, because he's just relaying the information, and he's doing it without bias towards heliocentrism or towards spinning random universe. Okay, it's a great channel. Please take the time to check out Malcolm Bowden's stuff. If you want a really good video that kind of encapsulates a lot of his stuff, it's this one, Science Mafia. I would highly suggest that you watch Science Mafia by Malcolm Bowden. This is great stuff too, Flat Earth Stupidity Exposed. So he does See, he's got a dog in the fight. He did all this work, you know? And then next thing you know, Flat Earth comes out and is shitting all over his work. And he's not happy about it. And I'm not either. And we'll get to why I have a personal dog in the fight in another video. But for right now, you should check out Malcolm Bowden. You should check out all of his videos that have to do with geocentrism, Sagnac effect, Varshney's quasars, Michelson Gale, Michelson Morley. It's all here. Goes back to the 1800s. Great stuff. Okay? What else was happening besides Malcolm's work? Well, you had these Catholics that came out with a movie called The Principle. This is all about the same time, right? This is 2010 to 2012-ish, 2013. This was made in 2014. So the movie had already come out, and they were under attack, and you'll never guess who was attacking them. Here's a clue: they wear small hats. And so we'll listen to a little bit of this mic'd up. I would check out, again, my suggestions for everybody is to take the time to study into this, what I'm talking about. Geocentrism, Malcolm Bowden is a great source. And also these Catholic dudes that made the movie The Principle. You can find The Principle movie, and I think it's $3 to watch it. You know, $3. Great stuff. But we're going to listen to a little bit of this interview that they did with this church militant, Michael Voris guy. They're all Catholics. You know, if you're not Catholic, we're trying to find the truth here. So just relax on certain things as we are listening to the truth, okay? Here we go.
Right. The Catholic worldview, and whenever you read medieval art or theology, you know, the earth was always considered to be the place of the incarnation of the Son of God, that all of the vastness out there was, you know, really insignificant compared to that. Right. And so it's really a completely different way of looking at the cosmos. If we're at the center and God has created us as the place of the incarnation of his Son, you view the rest of the universe in one way. Right. If we are a cosmic accident and we are just one of hundreds of billions of planets that are just like ours, and there's billions of other species out there, well, that's an entirely different view of the cosmos. Right. We happen to live at a time where this very simple question, what is our place in the cosmos, has launched the last two scientific revolutions, the Copernican revolution and relativity. We're both based on this puzzlingly persistent question, what is our place in the cosmos? As Lawrence Krauss has said, we could be living at a time when Copernicus is coming back to haunt us, because new observations of the cosmos' largest scales are absolutely shocking to those of us who have grown up from birth being told that we're just an insignificant rock orbiting an insignificant star and an insignificant... Guess what? What we're seeing now on the universe's largest scales is shockingly contrary to that assumption. So we wanted to make this film. We set out to make this film. We put a trailer up when we came and saw you in Detroit last time, and it has just gone absolutely bonkers. We're all over the world now. I mean, Der Spiegel, Time, you know, NPR,
and they're all flattering reviews.
Oh, they love the film. They love. Well, this is the funny thing. Our marketing guy, who happens to be Jewish, by the way, and who was just shocked by this attack on our film, because he saw the film and loved it and knows it has nothing to do with the Jews. I mean,
pay attention.
He said, you know, you're a lock for a special award next year. And I said, oh, really? What's that? He said, well, you're going to get an award in the special category, most reviewed film in history by folks who've never bothered to watch it first. So, anyway, they claim that we've duped these people, that we tricked these people, that, in fact, we are devious.
Oh, you got to be joking. Wow. All right, we'll let that load for a second, maybe, while it's doing its thing. These guys focus on the CMB data. 3 satellites were sent up over the course of the last, 30 years? I think 89 was the first one. There was Kobe, WMAP, and another one. The first two satellites use similar mapping capabilities to map the background radiation in the cosmos. The first satellite, I think it was Kobe, came back, and there was this strange anomaly where the Earth sat at the center of everything. And they called the axis that the Earth sits on the axis of evil. So that's very interesting, right? Why they would call it the axis of evil. And here they are looking at the data, and they don't like the data, so they call it the axis of evil. So they send up another satellite and try to improve upon the technology to prove that somehow or other that it's a random universe and that there's not really this axis where we sit along a plane right in the center of everything. Well, guess what? It came back with the same information. So then they said something's wrong. We must not be. Something's wrong with our mapping. Something's wrong with our system. So they found a completely new way to map the radiation. And they said this time we're going to go up there and we're going to get the right information that it's a random universe, that we're willy-nilly floating around somewhere in this big, vast universe. And guess what? The third one came back with the same thing. So all of the evidence is lining up that the Earth sits motionless, that the Earth does not spin, the Earth does not orbit the sun, the Earth does not sit in some strange random place in this vast cosmos, that it actually sits at the center of everything. So if that's the data coming out, what are the implications of the data? It shouldn't take you but a half of a second to realize that only a God, only a creator God, would have set up a situation where this special planet that has life, the only life that is truly known in the universe, that it sits right at the center of everything and doesn't move, and that everything rotates around us being in the center. Obviously, the implications are that there's a creator God. Obviously, that news is going to bring people to God and going to eliminate atheism altogether. Okay? I mean, you'd have to be a retard to think that somehow randomly and accidentally the Earth sits motionless at the center of the cosmos and that was an accident, right? That's beyond. So they knew that the implications were going to have to be addressed. So how are they going to address this this viral information that started to come out, movies coming out, people talking about how, hey, science has been covering up. Malcolm's talking about how science is covered up, and that the Royal Institute and all these other organizations were started to hijack science, to make science an agenda, to only allow peer review and promote scientific work that met their agenda. So you have all this coming out, right? And what happens next? Flat Earth. Flat frickin' Earth comes out, attaches itself to any of this information. Anybody that starts talking about the Earth doesn't move. Anybody that's talking about the Earth doesn't rotate and all this mess. Now you're Flat Earth, right? So instead of the implications leading people to God, again, it polarizes people into camps where you're ridiculed, you're a kook, you're something else, and you're dragging Christianity down with it. You're dragging the one true God down with it. Flat Earth is the perfect heresy, because it takes these powerful implications of actual scientific work and it turns them on top of their head, and it has Christians that carry the water and do the marching for Satan. It's absolutely perfect in its devious design. Okay? Terrible that this crap happened. Now you might be saying, well, okay, how does geocentrism? Okay, that might be blowing your mind right here. Here's a guy from history that nobody wants to address. Okay, look, when you're talking about when you're talking about Earth's orbit and perspective of, when you're talking about that kind of stuff, like what we see in the sky, you can do models in a heliocentric fashion, and you can do models in a geocentric fashion, and you will see the same thing. So, from your perspective. So, you cannot say one is more correct than the other, just by the models. There has to be more information to add to it to make you tend towards one model over the other. Now, because there's not 1,000-mile-per-hour winds at the equator like there should be if there's a ball Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and you're standing on the equator, right? Because there's not a difference in gravity pull noticed at the equator as at the poles, which you would expect if you have centrifugal force trying to whip you off the planet with the Earth. Because of a lot of just does it feel like we're moving, right? So Tycho said we're not moving, all right? And Tycho came up with what he believed, and a lot of people, in fact myself, believes is the correct model of the universe. And this is what it looks like. This is the Earth. This is the Moon. This is the Sun. And the planets are rotating around the Sun. The planets rotate around the Sun. The Sun rotates around the Earth. It explains retrograde motion with Mars and the other planets. It does it all slickly and cleanly. There's no epicycles like you needed with Copernicus, like you needed with Ptolemy. And it's at least as slick as Kepler, who many think was the guy who killed Tycho Brahe. But anyway, that's another story. Kepler, who was an occultist. Wonderful how this stuff is working for me. Anyway, that's your Tycho Brahe model. Now we're going to jump real quick into how sick and disgusting the flat earth community is. The flat earth community actually takes a quote. This is what they do with the Bible too. They take a quote from Tycho and they totally misread it and they totally misrepresent it, and they tell you that Tycho Brahe was a flat earther. What a complete heresy and joke. And here is the quote, and here is someone explaining how people are retarded who say that it's flat earth. This was actually a response in a video that was saying that Tycho Brahe was a flat earther. The guy here is very keen on his observation. The video has an unusual translation of the spheres quoted by Tycho. Okay, so what does Tycho say? Now it is quite clear to me that there are no solid spheres in the heavens, and those that have been devised by authors who say their appearances exist only in their imaginations for the purpose of permitting the mind to conceive a motion in which the heavenly bodies trace in their courses. We're talking about motion, not shape. Motion is what he's talking about in this quote, not shape. So, actually, the flat earthers, they take this no solid spheres and they say, oh look, Tycho Brahe was a flat earther and a geocentricist. See how they tied geocentrism to their stupid heresy? See how slick it is? But what's the real thing? The solid spheres have to do with Tycho Brahe referring to here the transparent celestial spheres. If you need to look that up, it's right here on Wiki. Which in the ancient model rotated around the sun and carried the planets in their orbit. Celestial spheres don't work. Why is that? Because actually he was denying flat earth. Because flat earthers basically tell you that there's this glass or this, there's some kind of dome over the top of this flat earth, and that within there are these pinholes where you see the stars. That's how the ancients kind of looked at it. The ancients were like, all the stars are relative to each other. They don't move. They couldn't observe any movement between the stars amongst themselves. They all seem to be uniform with each other all the time. So that way they thought that there must be this sphere that the stars are attached to, and the entire solid sphere rotates around. That's the solid spheres that Tycho Brahe is talking about. He's not talking about planet shapes. He's not talking about the shape of the earth. It's so frustrating with these flat earthers because it's such a well-packaged deception. It's sickening and disgusting, actually. Let's see if we can get some more out of these guys, and then I'll let you go on this. But
now we're talking right now we're talking about is just the secular press.
Yeah, this story came out.
Pay attention to the Jewish aspect
we were a little
in this conversation.
Interesting concept. Place of the earth and the cosmos. Interesting.
The Jews are attacking the shit out of them, even though they've got a Jewish producer.
And became,
look at these headlines.
Like the third largest trending story on the World Wide Web.
There were 150
Come on,
Lose that
clear.
next
Come on, clear.
decade.
Why are the geocentrists trying to undo centuries worth of accepted science? Hint, the Jews.
Heard this story.
100 in 24-hour period.
In a 24-hour period. And it was always the same story.
Hopefully you're getting the
Duped
common denominator,
into
the usual suspects,
film by evil geocentrists
trying to
Holocaust
stop this
deniers.
information from getting out.
Really? Okay. And
Let's get something straight right now. I'll get into this later, but just to clear the record, are you a Holocaust denier?
I am not.
Do you hate Jews?
I do not.
Are you a Holocaust denier?
No.
Do you hate Jews?
See what they
Okay,
do?
let's move on.
See what the Jews
Okay.
did? The Jews tried to equate these guys to Holocaust deniers and anti-Semite Jew haters. Before they got their flat Earth rolling, they were just freaking out and attacking these guys like rabid dogs, saying you're anti-Semite because you're exposing that the Earth is motionless in the center of the cosmos.
Should have been all it took. Right? But here's the thing. So, we believe in full disclosure here. We want to be honest. We really did bend over backward to make a fair-minded film, and I think anybody who saw it here knows that we were certainly a lot more fair to the opponents of our particular viewpoint than...
Yeah, then the shoe on the other foot, you'd have been demolished.
Exactly.
Let me ask Bob very quickly. Bob, do you have, your research and work and things you were coming across and then digging was really kind of the very beginning of this, is this stuff true? Right? Is that how the whole thing finally began?
Yeah, that was 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I made that fateful decision to press the wrong button on my my keyboard, and it came up with this PhD talking in astronomy, no less, talking about the Earth being in a special place. And I had to make that fateful decision whether I was going to press that key or not, and I pressed it 11 years ago, and here we are today. So, yeah, I had to do the research to find out. I had a science background.
All right. Y'all should check this out. I promise you, it's good information. These guys were under major attack. You probably never heard of the principle. Why? They just told you. The small hats in the room didn't want it getting out. And now what do we talk about? We talk about flat earth heresy. That's what we talk about. We don't talk about the facts that the earth sits still at the center of the cosmos. Okay? Are you guys starting to see this at all? Are you seeing how it's taking people away from God and allowing God and his followers to be mocked? And that you carry the water for this deception, this heresy all along the way for these evil, deceptive haters of Jesus? Haters of God? Are you seeing it? Okay, it could have gone the other way. It could have been, hey everybody, check this out. And then everybody would have to get on, hey, you know what? There must be a God. Now what? The implications are vast. Now what? Oh, no. Carry on. Go get your transgender work done. And just ignore these flat earthers. Okay? And then the flat earthers get into their camp and they become polarized and it's like, into something. It's absolutely, it's the best deception. It's the best. Because you get these pretentious, proud, idiot morons that call themselves Christians running around carrying the water for the devil. It's absolutely perfect. And then everybody else goes like, oh yeah, now I feel good in my secularism. Now I feel good in my decadence. Now I feel good in all this still, because anyone who mentions this other stuff about a special placement or something, they're a flat earther. They're a kook. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's a perfect way to divide. It's a perfect way to eliminate the threat. It's a perfect way to mock. And there was a comment left in my first video. It was great. It was a great comment. What's going to happen when undeniably it's exposed that the earth is a globe? How many Christians now will be disillusioned in their beliefs and actually fall from God, thinking that this was all? You see what I mean? What a perfect deception. It can just go on and on creating distance from God. It's a perfect deception to create distance from God. That's flat earth. I hope you're proud of yourself. Stay tuned. It's going to even get better.